Good evening, folks, and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us on the OzCro Soccer Show. It is indeed episode 60. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Fifth one this year. My name is Tonchi Prusats. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you here for another 60-odd minutes. And tonight's show is so big that one person cannot present it, cannot produce it, cannot host it. So as he does every week, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. DJ Ante Grabovac from, MC Ante from Sydney. How are you, Ante?
I'll take any acronym, doesn't matter these days. DJ, MC, doesn't matter.
Hey,
I'm good. I'm excellent. Thanks, Taunchy. Wonderful, mate. I love your intros every week. They make me smile. So
that's good. Glad they bring a smile to someone's face. Yeah. How are you, mate? How's things?
Good. It's been a great week. Yes, busy with a lot of sport, a lot of football. So it's been awesome, and really looking forward to presenting the chats with our special guests this evening. Of course.
Well, let's talk about that. Who's coming on the show tonight?
So we've got assistant coach and all-round club legend, former player, CARL MEDICA from the Western Knights. And, they're undefeated. They've been promoted this year, and they are going great guns. And they've got a big Australia Cup fixture this weekend. We'll be talking a bit more about that. And then after that, we'll be talking to Patrick ANTELMI, star striker, scored over 70 goals so far for Sydney United and counting. Scored a brace on the weekend, and it's a absolutely fascinating journey, football journey of Patrick that we'll be happy to present to you. And it was lovely talking to both of those particular gentlemen. And before that, of course, we've got the news desk with both.
We've got lots of news, a bit of controversy as well to do with the Australian-Croatian soccer tournament. We've got a little bit of information about that as well. One of our clubs over the weekend celebrated their 40th anniversary, so there's a lot to talk about that. And, of course, what is happening in our lovely homeland in Croatia. Gosh, it's, maybe the as far as the HNL, the Croatian Football League, is concerned, looks like we know who mathematically it's still possible that the second place team could get up, but it certainly looks like the current leaders are going to take the championship.
It's going to be blue again. It's going to be blue.
But there's lots of excitement in the second tier and the third tier competitions. Both those champions could be decided on the final day of competition. So, wow, it's going to be a fantastic crescendo, culmination, call it what you will, in Croatian football just ahead of the Euro Championships, and that also is going to be just around the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great when they obviously the crescendo goes to the final day, and that's why we love in Australia grand finals so much, right? Yeah, and absolutely. The Euro's just a month away now, and so all the preparations, all the excitement. I'm sure everyone's looking at their calendars and putting their alarm clocks on already. So, it's going to be a really, really interesting tournament.
Lots going on. Okay, folks, don't go away. We'll be we'll be back very shortly after this message from our main sponsor, Living Gems and Gem Life. And then it's time for the news desk with Ante.
Who's to say who's young, who's old? Compared to who? Age is complicated. You see, most people really stop getting older at age 26, but their bodies just don't get the memo. So, hidden inside most over 50-ish-year-olds is the soul and spirit of a 26-year-old with the same loves and desires and hopes and dreams, just in slightly different packaging. Why waste time wondering when you could be enjoying? It's your life, and life is what you make it. So, what are you waiting for?
All right, let's hit the local news. First of all, the winners list. Taunchi, we've only got 5 this week.
Not good.
Not good. We always like to see more logos on that particular list. But we had a few cancellations up in Newcastle, and we also had some Australia Cup matches around the country. So that's the reason why we only had 5 league winners during this particular week. Well done to Brisbane Knights, first place, 4 wins in a row. They're undefeated, and they had another win on the weekend. The O'Connor Knights, they're in second spot, 4 wins in a row, and they are undefeated, and they won in the big Croatian derby, 3-1 over Canberra, Croatia. That was a great afternoon there in Canberra with the 2 Croatian teams taking on each other. Sydney United, geez, these guys are doing so well. 4 wins in a row, currently in 5th place, 3-2 win over the first place Western Sydney Wanderers, led 3-0, some superb football played. And it was interesting to see a particular ex-Sydney United family there as well. Roman Chulina, who of course is the grandson of Branko and son of Jason, was playing for the Wanderers there. And there's a couple of actually really good, talented Croatians playing for the Wanderers as well.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Glenorchy Knights, they had their first win in 3 games. They're coming first. They're undefeated, and they had another win on the weekend. And it's always good to see the Melbourne Knights on the winners list. They're currently in 8th spot. It was their first win in 4 games, and it was a big 3-0 win over Dandenong Thunder. And let's hope they can keep that good form happening.
A much-needed win, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And this Friday night, they take on the 9th place Green Gully at home. So get on down there and support the Knights. Also on Friday night at Frank Holohan, Dandenong are at home to Heidelberg. And yeah, also on Friday night, Hersel Zagreb, if you're here in Sydney, are at home to Central Coast United at Penzos Park. Meanwhile, the Saturday afternoon, we've got Adelaide, Croatia. They're at home. North Geelong Warriors, they're at home against the 12th place Melbourne City. So let's hope North Geelong can get
must-win game, that one.
Must win, yeah, and move up the ladder and, make sure they're doing well there. Gold Coast Knights on Saturday afternoon are at home as well against Redlands. 1st versus 12th. Well, we should hopefully win that one. And on Saturday as well, South Coast United, who celebrated their 40th anniversary on the weekend, and we'll probably be covering that a little bit more when we've got a bit more time, hopefully next week. They're taking on Port Kembla, so 9th versus 11th. Fingers crossed for a win there. And on Sunday, the lone home fixture, St. Albans Dinamo Taunchi are taking on South Melbourne. Can they do the miracle and beat South Melbourne? What do you reckon?
Well, just today, Dinamo made the announcement that they've hired a new coach. Former Melbourne Knights player as well. He played with the Melbourne Knights for a season. Cameron Watson, if you remember that name. And his assistant is, for fans of the A-League, Billy Selesky, who I believe played quite extensively for Melbourne Victory. So they have just been announced today. There's a lot that needs to be done there look, first game is against South Melbourne. On a positive note, it's the first game I think in about 5 or 6 weeks that they're playing at home, because the ground has been under repair by the local Optina, the local council. So I think the track will be very good. They'll enjoy a little bit of that home ground advantage. But a very, very important game. That one going to be a tough one for the incoming gaffer, Cameron Watson.
Absolutely. Baptism of fire, no doubt, with against South Melbourne. Away this week, Friday night, Sydney United are away to Manly. So let's hope that good form continues so they can get 5 wins in a row. Canberra Olympic are hosting Canberra, Croatia on Saturday afternoon. Brisbane Knights are away to Mount Gravatt. Newcastle, Croatia are playing on Sunday away to South Maitland, 1st versus 11th. Come on, boys. I think they've got a make-up match tomorrow night as well, but it's Kisha here, so we do not know what's going to happen with that match. And Gungahlin United, first undefeated with 5 wins, are hosting O'Connor Knights, who are coming second, but they've got a match in hand. So it's a big match, 1st versus 2nd, both undefeated at the AIS grass field on Sunday afternoon, Mother's Day. So, be good to your mums if you're there and, take them out to the game. Turning our attention to Australia Cup this week, we had a mixed bag of results. St. Albans Dinamo kept their hopes alive with a 3-1 win versus East Bentley. O'Connor Knights had a massive win, 6-0 over Queanbeyan. Unfortunately, saying goodbye, Canberra, Croatia. This one's disappointing. Coming first in the league, Gold Coast Croatia 1-1 versus Sunshine Coast Wanderers and lost 4 on penalties. Obviously, yes, they won't be happy with that particular result. And of course, we had a big cross last week to Strathmore, and unfortunately, they lost 3-1 to Langwarrin. So we've got 7 clubs still alive in the Australia Cup, and we do have some fixtures that are up and running. Guelph, Croatia, they are at home on Saturday afternoon, and they are hosting Perth Red Star. They're a division above Guelph, so that'll be an interesting test for Guelph, and let's hope the boys can cause an upset there. Bayswater City, they are hosting the Western Knights. We'll be talking a lot about this match with our special guest from the Knights coming up a little bit later on.
We will indeed.
Yeah, and so this is a 5th versus 2nd, and they played on the weekend and had a 1-1 draw as well. Next Tuesday night, Sydney United are going down to Wollongong for the 2nd time of this Australia Cup campaign, and they will be taking on the 4th place in the Illawarra Premier League, Wollongong United, who are a Macedonian team. So that's at Macedonia Park, and so the Kabapi will be fantastic there as well. And then is this locked in? Because I couldn't find it anywhere else, but I did see that next Wednesday at Churchill Reserve, St Albans are hosting Green Gully. Do you know anything?
I believe so. I haven't got confirmation, but I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting fixture, but, doable for St Albans, and hopefully, get their season kicking along as well. So it's good that they're still alive in the Australia Cup. Next Wednesday night at Pasadena, Newcastle. They are coming first in the Newcastle Zone 2. They're playing Newcastle Zone 1, 6th position team, Katara South. And on Sunday, the 19th of May, we've got Devonport City hosting Glenorchy Knights, and both of those teams are undefeated in Tassie. So that'll be an interesting fixture, and we're still waiting on an opponent for O'Connor. So there you go. We had 10 last week. Now we're down to 7 in the Australia Cup, and lots of news and fixtures around the country, Taunchy.
Yeah, hopefully that can continue that form. Now, we've also had, I guess it's going to be quite controversial. We'll talk a little bit more about this, aren't it? But there has been a tournament date change. Folks, what do you make of this? St Albans Dynamo, following last Friday's meeting of the 25-member clubs of the Sarves, they've overwhelmingly, I believe, voted to change the date of this year's tournament. The tournament now will be on the 26th to the 29th of September. A couple of things, obviously, aren't there? If you've booked and you've paid for your accommodation, paid for your airfares, this is going to be a real pain. If you've booked through Bonza, you're going to be even more painful, I suppose. But that weekend also happens to be the grand final weekend, the AFL grand final weekend, and we all know how stupid Melbourne gets over grand final weekend, and the prices and accommodation becomes even more crazy. It's I'm sure it's going to be controversial. Look, there's a legitimate reason why it's been moved, and look, as we are talking now, I do believe that the tournament organising committee and the St Albans Dynamo committee are meeting tonight. One of the representatives of the tournament committee is going to be coming on this Thursday night on Dynamo TV. It's a cheap little plug for another one of our shows here, Dynamo TV. And that's this Thursday. But Ante, look, from what you're hearing up in Sydney, what's the general thing? What's the general feeling around the traps?
Yeah, traditionally it's been a long weekend up here in New South Wales, so it's obviously something to look forward to for everyone here, and quite easier to travel around the country when you've got that extra day on the Monday. Obviously, it is a long weekend down in Melbourne because you've got the grand final parade the day before and things like that. So, if you do want to join the parade, then you can enjoy that down in Melbourne. But it's obviously a little bit, change of tradition, which obviously people get upset about and things. But hopefully it'll all work out and people be able to make their changes and get down there and make it a successful tournament. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm sure there'll be more news come Thursday evening when someone from the organising committee does come on Dynamo TV to basically explain the whole reasons behind it. Instead, all right, we're going to move along now. We're going to move to we're going
Right.
to. I was trying to find that slide. What's happening in Croatia? And there we go. Look at the Croatian league. If you are a Dinamo supporter, you will be rejoicing. You will be jumping up and down and celebrating what is probably going to be the inevitable, and that is that Dinamo is going to take out this year's Croatian Premier League. On the weekend, and what a game it was. Look, I was going to get up to wake up and watch this. I didn't. I was very, very tired the night before, but I did watch the highlights, and boy, what a game. Like, Dinamo come from behind 2-1 win against Rijeka in front of a absolutely jam-packed Rujevica Stadium in Rijeka. It had it all. It had some world-class goals. It had some end-to-end stuff, great atmosphere, obviously. And if you're a Rijeka fan or you're not a Dinamo fan, I guess you'd be very disappointed. But look, Rijeka, what they're building, and as long as they can keep the core of that team together and build on it, that it'll make for a great season next year. Hajduk, the clean out needs to start happening sooner rather than later. There's an interesting poll happening around Croatia at the moment. Nenad Bjelica, ex-Dinamo, ex-Osijek coach, he's been given the flick in Germany this second time this season. And there's talk, would he come to Hajduk? A lot of the hardcore Torcidashi are saying, over our dead bodies. A lot of other people are saying, well, why not? We need someone who's a bit disciplinarian, who's going to clean out the dressing room and is going to bring a whole new standard of behaviour. But yeah, on the weekend it was quite sad, to watch Hajduk how quickly they have just fallen from grace, and they lost to Varaždin 1-0 on the weekend in front of good crowd of about 12,000 fans, which is still more than there was in Rijeka, but nonetheless, it's disappointing if you're a Hajduk supporter. Present company included, of course, Ante. Osijek defeated Lokomotiva 3-1. Slavia Belupo defeated Gorica 4-1. And Rudeš lost at home to Istra 1-2. They will be going...
Rudeš, we want another victory before the season ends.
Yeah, now it's an interesting article came out in today's Croatian press, and saying that they've worked out how much everyone is going to get from TV rights. Now, this is, I think, the first year that the actual clubs have received money from TV rights. In the past, it hasn't been, hasn't been lucrative enough for sponsors to actually invest. This year, it's actually happened that Dinamo will get, if they win, they will get 1.23 million euro. The second place team will get 1.14 million. Hajduk will get 1.05 million, and at the bottom end, the 10th place team, which is Rudeš, they will get 777,000 euros, which should put them in good stead when they drop down to the second division next year. So that's
absolutely, and surely these clubs should get some money from all the gambling that's happening as well. Right?
yeah, Super Sport and all of that. Exactly, the league's named after gambling. Here in Australia, they're trying to get away from it. In Croatia, they're embracing it.
Well, it's everywhere, and every app has got the Croatian league, so they should be getting something from that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving along to the Prva Liga, obviously the second tier competition. The results here: Šibenik defeated Jarun 2-0. There's a certain euphoria building in Šibenik at the moment, and I've been following what's been going on there. Their coach Mario Carevic, up and coming coach. He was a former Hajduk split player, legend that he was. He's building something special there. But look, Zrinski, Osječko, they continue to just defy the odds. Their 4-1 win over Dugopolje at home in Osijek. It's going to come down to these two teams, and with 4 rounds to go, the final game will be played in Osijek. Zrinski taking on Šibenik. That could be the decider. Same thing happening in the Druga Liga, Ante. The big news here was that Opatija lost to Hrvatske 2-1.
That opens it up.
Big result there, and that's really opened things up. Radni, Križevci, Karlovac, Kustošija, Mladost Dralovi, I think, as well. Yep, all of those teams in the top 5, they all recorded wins. And so now it's getting even more closer, and it's unbelievable. Like with 4 rounds to go, any one of those any one of those top 4 teams really could do it. So it's just getting to that pointy end of the season, and okay, there might not be a lot of interest in the HNL at the moment, but I can tell you what, there's a lot of interest in Prva Liga and Druga Liga. And in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Croatian teams on the weekend. Well, we had Zrinski defeat Široki. I think it was 3-0, and Gosh the Gabel team unable to take any points off the leaders Borac. Look, at the moment, with 3 rounds to go, it's highly likely that Borac Banja Luka will take this championship. They've got 5 points ahead of Zrinski, but mathematically anything is possible. So while there is still a chance, let's hope that Zrinski can get the results where it really matters.
It's great to see them in Europe this year. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us pretty much to the end of the news desk, Ante.
Absolutely. That was awesome. Great wrap up.
All right, when we return, we're going to be speaking with CARL MEDICA, the assistant coach from the Western Knights, our first guest. Folks, don't go away. It is the OzCro Soccer Show that you are watching.
Who's to say who's young, who's old? Compared to who? Age is complicated. You see, most people really stop getting older at age 26. But their bodies just don't get the memo. So, hidden inside most over 50-ish-year-olds is the soul and spirit of a 26-year-old, with the same loves and desires and hopes and dreams, just in slightly different packaging. Why waste time wondering when you could be enjoying? It's your life, and life is what you make it. So, what are you waiting for?
Okay, folks, welcome back to the OzCro Soccer Show, and it's time for our next guest, and we're going to go all the way across the Nullarbor Plain, Ante, and they have been a revelation this year in their first year back in the NPL competition, in the
Incredible.
the WA NPL competition, very much like the Adelaide Croatia Raiders that we had pleasure of chatting about a couple of weeks ago. But the Western Knights, they were up until this weekend sitting in top spot. But as we heard in the opening news desk, they dropped some points on the weekend, but still remain undefeated. But they have slipped to second spot, and we're going to ask some of the tough questions why that's the case. They're in a bit of a form slump, and the man who's going to be fronting up to the OzCro Soccer Show tribunal is the assistant coach, CARL MEDICA. CARL, good evening. First of all, welcome to the OzCro Soccer Show. How you going?
Yeah, good, boys. Yeah, going well. Thanks for having us on the show. All going well.
Yeah, now, look, we dropped some points on the weekend, and, in conversation with Western Knights President Dean Zlendich last week, we said, look, if the boys can maintain top spot, yeah, they can come on the show next week. But no, we dropped some points on the weekend, and that head coach Adam Kostrencic was too scared to come and talk to us, so he sent you to talk to us. And but no, all reality, all jokes aside, Adam may be joining us a bit later on. But CARL, take us through last week's result against Bayswater, game against Bayswater.
Bayswater have been probably one of the powerhouse teams in the NPL competition for quite a few years now. But yeah, look, it was frustrating. Adam and I, having a chat, we were probably disappointed not to walk away with the 3 points. I felt the first half was fairly even, but second half we came out with a lot of intent, put them on the back foot, so to speak. I thought we had the better of the chances, but our final product wasn't there on the weekend, and Yeah, look, they managed to get us on a counter and score late, but to the credit of the boys, they held firm and kept pushing, and we got our equaliser in the end. So disappointing not to get 3 points, but we'll take the point and move on to next week.
Haven't you got them in the Australia Cup this weekend again?
Yeah, we do. This time we're at Frank Drago Reserve, which is Bayswater's ground. So, yeah, very much looking forward to this weekend, and yeah, we play them again. So it'll be interesting to see if the team gets mixed up a bit. But anyway, we'll take positives out of the game from the weekend, that's for sure. And we'll go there with trying to come away with a win and advance to the next stage.
If we have a look at the competition standings there in WA after 7 rounds, Athena on top with 16 points, Western Knights second, 15. Olympic Kingsway 14 points, Fremantle City 13, who are your opponents in the next round in 2 weeks' time. But you started off like a house on fire. First 4 games, 4 wins, and since then it's been 3 draws. So you've had a pretty good kind of understanding of the tempo or the standard of the WA NPL competition. Were you surprised with your early season form?
It's funny you say that. We've had a lot of comments around. We've taken the competition by surprise. Externally, that's the word on the street, so to speak. Everyone's a bit surprised with how we've started, but internally, myself and Adam, we felt that we'd put together a good squad to be able to compete in the NPL. The squad we put together, we brought through quite a few of the players that we had from last season, and we've added some experienced, good, young NPL players. So, we thought we'd be able to sort of compete with the squad we had, but you never know, I suppose, going into the season how you'd go. But the boys have been sensational, and they've bought into the way we want to play football. And playing at home, we've had quite a few home games, and the supporters have been outstanding. Everyone says it's not an easy place to come and play football, but I just think we've adapted quite well, and our style of play, we like to play a high tempo, sort of high press sort of game. But just a great start, and we've just got to take each week as it comes. The old cliche, but that's the mentality we have, and we've just got to keep that front foot forward and go from there.
And what's the difference between second and first division? Is the pace of the games quicker? Are the players fitter? Have you noticed the difference?
Oh yeah, look, technically, the players are better, and it is a higher tempo, higher pace game. Our boys have adapted quite well. Like I said, look, we did sign some experienced and young upcoming NPL players. But we've adapted quite well, with the tempo. We like to carry that through or start from training. It starts on the track, and we like to keep a high tempo, high intense sort of training sessions, which sort of carries through the weekend game. But yeah, definitely technically, there's better players. And it's a fast-paced game, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, Carl, last season on the OzCro Soccer Show, we featured Western Knights quite a few times, and we saw the dynamic, I guess, renaissance of the club with a lot of the younger people involved in the club, and particularly at junior level, and it just seems to be like a really good happening place. From a seniors point of view, all right, you've got promoted into the top tier competition in WA. And how have you made Western Knights a destination club for a lot of those, as you mentioned, experienced players, some up-and-coming NPL players? Is it the crowds? Is it the community spirit that's prevalent at the Western Knights? Is it something else? How have you and Adam managed to mould such a good team in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I think it's all in one. It's it's the club, it's the people, it's the
Mm-hmm.
culture. If you look at our committee, starting with Dean, our president, our committee, they've been there for a long time. They've been part of the committee part of the club for, we're talking 15, 20 years. So
Yep.
internally, the club's in a great spot. It's got some great people behind it. The supporters, they're true supporters. I mean, there's a lot of supporters when I, played 20 years ago. When I played for the club, they're still there. And it's good to see those faces. We're all getting a bit older, but they're still there week in, week out, home and away. They're still there. So, building on our success that we had last year, and trying to attract, a certain type of player.
Yeah.
That's how we sell our vision and our club. And at the end of the day, we want to compete. We want to compete with the big boys that are in the league. That's the vision of the club as well.
Yeah. A lot of stability certainly seems from the outside looking in.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you need that in the background. You need that support. You need that stability. It goes a long way.
Yeah, sure thing.
Ante, do you think Perth football as a whole is, getting more? I mean, every time I've been to Perth, it seems to be like a bit of a, I go to a cafe and I hear conversations behind me about football more than I do in other states and things like that, where they're talking more about AFL, etc. Do you find that Perth has got a little bit more of a passion, maybe because of the expats that are there, or the actual mix of people there? Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah. Well, look. It's a bit of a mix. I mean, there's a lot of expats over here, and they love their football, and you embed that with your historical clubs like your Kingsways and your Perths and so forth, Bayswater, Stirling, Macedonia. They've got good foundations, and it does attract people. Going back to certain clubs. I mean, Kingsway, they got promoted last year and have done so well. And they've got 4 or 5 ex-A-League players playing in their team. And they added Liam Boland, who's one of the top goal scorers from the Victorian NPL to their squad. So, there's some good footballers playing in this league, which is good, which puts WA on the map, even more. So it's all positive. Yeah.
And how do you compete with that? Do you sort of try and work on your juniors that you've gotten? Speaking of which, what's the caliber of juniors coming up through the ranks?
Yeah, look, it's very hard for a team that's been promoted from State League Div 1, because a lot of the younger type players, the juniors, they want to play NPL, right? So the Western Knights haven't been in the NPL for 10 odd years. So very hard to sort of attract a better junior type player through to the club. But hopefully with us now being promoted to the NPL, that'll change.
Yeah.
So we've certainly seen that with the trials we had with the under-18s and the under-20s. The better quality player coming through. So hopefully in the future that that'll improve too.
Yeah.
But they've got some, they've got some good numbers in the juniors. So hopefully we can stay there and get even bigger.
And do you find that moving into NPL 1, you needed more sponsorship, a bit more dollars, to compete in that level? I mean, are there some big budget clubs that tend to spend a lot?
Look, no doubt, no doubt. No doubt the wage bills increased from last year. Look, I mean, you're playing NPL. It's, the top league in the state, down from the A League. So to attract better players, I think clubs need to dip into their pockets and, through sponsorship and so forth. So, yeah, no doubt, the budget is a lot higher than, say, playing in Div 1.
And who are some of those players that will bring people through the gates? Some of the attacking, sort of exciting players that make the club, score those goals.
Oh yeah, look, we signed Christian Santich, who played over in the New South Wales NPL. He's a Perth boy that went over there for a couple of years. We managed to sign Christian, who's an excellent player. But as I said, look, all clubs have got their sort of marquee type players.
Yeah.
And, we managed to sign him, and like I said, a couple of other NPL sort of proven players. Jesse Lazaro signed who's been at Coburn for pretty much all his life, and unfortunately they got relegated. So he's jumped on board as well, and he's been really excellent addition to the squad. And a few others as well. So exciting times.
Yeah. So round 8 clash against Fremantle City at home. That's on the 18th of May at 5 p.m. But in the meantime, Ant, as you mentioned it, the Australia Cup clash against Bayswater. Have you got the details there handy?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. They are taking on Bayswater at home against the Western Knights. Saturday, 11th of May, 3 p.m. kickoff, as was mentioned before by Carl at Frank Drago Reserve there. And, get on out there and support the Knights in that, big clash. And hopefully you can go as far as you can in the Australia Cup, Carl, because that'll put you on the map even more, right? That'll turn some heads.
We'd love to see you come out into the eastern states as well in the round of 32. That would be great.
That'll be nice. Look, all going well. Look, let's see what happens on the weekend. We'll go there with guns blazing, trying to do the business and trying to come away with the win. That's our focus for this weekend. They're a good side, so we've got to play some good football to get past them. Very much looking forward to it.
Awesome. On that note, mate, thank you very much for joining us here on the OzCro Soccer Show, and we wish you and the Western Knights all the best in season 2024.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for having me.
Secure your sporting future with Citizen HR, your ultimate safety net. Feeling the uncertainty of the world's sporting landscape? With political and economic instability, it's time for a backup plan. Consider becoming a citizen of Croatia with Citizen HR, your pathway to a second passport for sporting resilience. Take control of your sporting future and ensure your family's protection with a stable and secure country. Citizen HR offers expert guidance and support to make the sometimes confusing and overwhelming process of obtaining a second passport for sporting purposes a breeze. Mariana shares her experience. I'm so glad I applied for Croatian citizenship when I did. I'm concerned about my family's future in Australia. I can't wait for us all to move to Croatia. Citizen HR made it all a breeze. Don't wait. Secure your sporting future today. Download Citizen HR and leap into a world of sporting safety and security. So what are you waiting for? Head over to https://citizenhr.app today. Use the code AUSCRO for 50% off any biography translations you order.
It brings us great pleasure to welcome a man who has been with Sydney United since 2018, an absolute goal-scoring machine who has now scored over 70 goals for the club. He's a favourite of the fans, played in some huge matches for the club. It's a great pleasure to have him on the OzCro Soccer Show. Here he is, the one and only Mr. Patrick ANTELMI. Good evening, Patrick.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Very good, Patrick. That was a great intro. That is like he was a wrestler making his way to the ring. But good to have you on the show, Patrick.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Paddy, first serious question to start off with. With your surname starting with Ante, it was pretty much inevitable that you'd play at the Croatian club, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course, that's right. Yeah, Auntie, the first four letters of my last name, so it worked out really well.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So, tell us a bit about your background and where and how you fell in love with the game and all of that sort of stuff. It would be interesting to know because, of course, you've got a ethnic background yourself, right?
Yeah, that's right. So both my parents are from Argentina. So the love of the game was there from the day I was born, pretty much, thanks to obviously my father. His parents are actually from Italy, and after the war, they migrated to Argentina. And as a kid, as far as I can remember, I was watching football matches with dad. The great Maradona, our team Boca Juniors. So I just, since a little kid, picked up from there the love and the passion for both the sport and also the club Boca Juniors, and that's where it's mostly come from.
So you were born over there, or you were born here?
No, I was born here, me and my siblings, but my parents are from Argentina. They came after they got married.
Yeah, fantastic.
And which clubs did you spend at during your junior days?
So as a kid, just local, I started at Parawood United, and just bounced around a little bit, Canley Heights and, AC United, and always played against senior juniors, and it was always a strong team to play against. As a kid, I remember, the best games were always against senior juniors, one of the biggest clubs in Marconi. And then once things got a bit more serious at the age of 13, when you start, your what they call now SAP, I moved to Blacktown City Demons and played there up until my move to overseas.
Yeah, tell us a bit about your move overseas. You spent a bit of time in the UK, right?
Correct. Yes, I spent 6 years there. I got scouted while I was playing at Blacktown City. Went for a trial when they asked me to, and then by the time I was 15, I had picked up and moved to Portsmouth, where I started my scholarship and professional contract.
That's absolutely brilliant. And how did it go? Would you recommend it for a young player, of that age these days to do something like that?
Highly recommend it. I think, unfortunately, the progression in football here for young players, there's not much of a pathway for them to succeed in that elite level with the vast majority of numbers. It's very minimum and cut down. So I personally, I was having a discussion with a young boy over the weekend, and he's 22, does really well, but stuck in the NPL. And I told him, look, if you still got aspirations, try get overseas, Scotland or these other countries where you maybe start out of a mid-table club and then work your way up. If I had my time again, I would have been a bit more patient when I was 20, 21. I was doing really well from 18 to when I left 21 in the reserves, top goal scorer, trained with the first team. When I was at Wigan, involved with the travelling squad in Europa League, and just wasn't patient. Came back to try and get first team experience in the A League, and then go back. But unfortunately, in Australia, you come back and you're taking probably 10 steps back compared to the progression in Europe.
Now that's fascinating, and this is a really interesting direction that this interview is taking. We were going to talk about Sydney United and how well they're doing, but we will get to that eventually. But mate, how old were you when you first ventured over Europe, and how did it come about? So, was it through various agencies, or was it through contacts, or how did you actually manage to realise what for many young players is just a dream?
Mate, I was 14 at Blacktown City, and back then Ken Shember the players that did well, he used to play them up. So I played that day 14s, came on 15s, came on the 16s, and it was up until after 16s game. My father came up to me and said, look, this gentleman wants to have a chat with you. He's over there, go have a chat with him. And I went and spoke to him, and he told me, look, I'm a scout for Aston Villa and Portsmouth. I think you're a very good player. I want to take you over to trial. And at the time, I was like, I honestly didn't believe it. I said, yeah, whatever. So I got my details, my father's email, and then within 3 months, Portsmouth had got in contact with a flight log of when they wanted me to come over to get permission from my school that I could go over and trial. And honestly, it happened so quick that I blinked and I was already over the trialing for a week, and they offered me a 3-year deal for when I turned 16. And I actually, by the time I was 15, they had called my father and said, look, we want him to come earlier to get used to living in a different country by himself because I had no family. I moved by myself. And yeah, it just happened that quick. It was unbelievable.
That's amazing. And were you living with other families over there, or were you literally by yourself, or how did you do it?
No, up until I was 18, they did have families that looked after players that came from overseas or different parts of the country. And then once I turned 18, when I was at Leeds, I had, moved by myself into an apartment.
Fascinating. And then, as you said, you then came back to Australia looking at trying to get into the A-League. You're in the New South Wales NPL competition. And an interesting thing you said, you come back and it's like taking 10 steps back. What did you mean exactly by that?
Well, you compare, anywhere around the world, and it's interesting because, we're trying to do the B League, next season.
Yeah.
You look at anywhere around the world and, if you can't make the Premier League, you've got Championship, League One, League Two, and then even then non-league. So you still got the opportunity to still make those jumps. Whereas here, you come here, and if you're not playing A-League, and as I said, the spots that are available are very small. There's only 10 teams with 22 players. So that works out to be, just over, let's say, 250 players in a country full of, a lot of footballers. And then the next level is NPL, which is part-time. So if you're, as I said, if you're not getting selected in that availability of those 10 teams, you're stuck in the NPL. And then from there, players to get picked from the NPL to the A-League is very small.
Did you think about going to other countries other than UK, or what do you think?
I did think about it and try to, but it was very tricky. For 6 months, a lot of clubs asked, well, why is he back in Australia if he was playing in the UK? And other clubs, people over there were having doubts as to why did he come back to Australia? Why didn't he stay here? Or why didn't he, have a bit more experience and etc. So I start having those doubts. And unfortunately, in other countries, Australia's not as respected as other countries in Europe or South America. That's the problem.
And that's the reality, isn't it? I mean, once upon a time, maybe 20 years ago, the Viduka, Kuhl, Karlats era, I suppose, Australians, maybe Australians of not necessarily just Croatian descent, but Australians who were in the soccer were kind of revered, recognised, maybe even respected. Nowadays, most of our socceroos seem to come from B-grade leagues and they're unknowns and this and that. So there isn't that profile that we used to have once upon a time.
Oh, I totally agree. I think, look, I'm just a player, in the game, and been around for a bit now. But if I look at that, that golden generation, as you said, your Vidukas, your Harry Kills, your Brescianas, your Swartzes, mate, that squad in general was unbelievable for Australia, and for us not to kind of take off after that World Cup and instead just kind of go a bit stale and then decline a little bit is pretty sad, because as you said, we're not really looked at as a highly well competitive country really at the moment, at this point in time.
So when you came back, did you you mentioned a few A-League clubs, but you ended up back at Blacktown? Is that just because you didn't get any opportunities there?
I was with Sydney. Unfortunately, I came halfway through their season, and it was between me and another player who they wanted to sign, and this other player was playing in Greece, third division, whatever it was, in the first team, so they picked him. So I did go back to Blacktown, my old club, just purely because I had a lot of respect for the club and still that loyalty I had with them, and played 2 seasons there, and then made my move to Wollongong, and then United, and still here.
Yeah, you did score against us in the grand final there, Paddy, didn't you? Is that part of the reason why you ended up at Sydney United? That was a tragic day for Sydney United fans, but of course, it was United won the league quite easily that year, but you guys did the business on grand final day when you were playing for Blacktown, of course.
Yeah, no, that squad United had was unbelievable. You won, you killed it. It's harsh to say, you win the league comfortably, which they did. And then, in Australia, we highlight more the finals football than what we do through the season. And look, they won the league, they won the Waratah Cup, they won the NPL series. The only thing that was missing for them was the grand final. So, but they had a fantastic squad that year. Unbelievable.
And I'd just like to highlight something. Since you've been with Sydney United, We made the Waratah Cup final in 2019, unfortunately lost. 2019 grand final against Apia, which unfortunately we lost again. So 2020, unfortunately you missed that epic grand final against Rockdale, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
You were sidelined, weren't you?
That's correct. I got sent off in the semi-final, yes.
How much? I mean, I was actually watching an AFL player getting interviewed last week, and he, missed the grand final, and it cuts him. I mean, how do you feel on grand final day when you're not out there?
That was probably one of the most stressful games I've ever watched in my life. Not being able to help the boys on the pitch. You know, you saw yourself the emotions through that game, going 1-0 down, 1-0. You know, the 2-1, then 2-0, then actually going up, and then they equalised, and then penalty shootout. It was actually the most stressful game to ever watch.
If you haven't watched it, 3-0. We've mentioned it a few times on this show. It's one of the best grand finals you ever will see. And then going on, 2022, unfortunately, we lost the Waratah Cup final. And then, of course, the Australia Cup final, we lost 2-0. And then, so Waratah Cup final last year, we won 3-1. So you've played in a hell of a lot of finals, and obviously you've contributed greatly. So what are some of your favourite matches and memories in playing for Sydney United since you began with us in 2018?
Oh, there's the amount of memories I have of this club is phenomenal. I think our Australia Cup run 2022 was one of the best, games and also journey to be a part of, not because of the wins, but because of the background things that were happening within the squad. If we wrote a book or even did a little documentary, it'd be phenomenal, because, the week before Western United, I tore my hamstring against Hills United in the final. Nizic had a bit of a medical issue, so we had no keeper for the whole week. So Paney was training in goals. Just the whole lead up was unbelievable. And then, of course, the final just speaks for itself. It was something, I'll never forget at the club.
Yeah, absolutely. It made history. Obviously, the first non-A-League club to make the final, and the atmosphere in the stadium was just absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, the result didn't go our way. We had 2 penalties against us, but yeah, it was awesome. And of course, everything around that, as you mentioned, Paddy, was absolutely awesome. So, Taunch, you're going to take a bit of a break?
Yeah, I think we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're speaking with Sydney United legend Patrick ANTELMI. When we return, we're going to have part 2 of this interesting dialogue, interesting conversation. Folks, don't go away. It is the OzCro Soccer Show. Welcome back to the OzCro Soccer Show, and it's our very, very special guest tonight, Patrick ANTELMI from Sydney United. And Ante, we were talking about the Australia Cup, that wonderful Australia Cup history being made a few years back. You were at that game, weren't you, Ante?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those 2 games against Western United and against Brisbane in particular, that semi-final is something not to be forgotten. I mean, how did you feel at the stadium? Obviously, they were 2 of the biggest games in a long time, probably since the NSL days for Sydney United fans.
Yeah, no, look, to see the first one against Western United, I suffered a lot, being the week before tearing, both my hamstrings. But to watch the community come around together, when you play for Sydney United, one of the biggest things you find out very quickly is how together the Croatian community is, and how important it actually is for football and at a club like Sydney United. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing around the league. to see that against West United. But the semi-final, the amount of people that came to the game after knowing we had a very average year in the season, and the emotions going through that game is partly and most probably the biggest reason as to why we were able to win that game the way we did as well, to push to the last minute. That was my first game back from my hamstring injury that I was suffering from, and first touch, first goal, and I was dead after that. But yeah, the people that showed up, it really brought back the glory days of what the NSL was and what Sydney United's actually about.
Yeah. Well, in your opinion, maybe this is a personal opinion, but you've seen a lot in the New South Wales Premier League, National Premier League in the last few years, and obviously culminating in that Australia Cup game. But was it a flash in the pan? Was it something that'll never be repeated again? Or with this National Second Division that everyone's talking about and is praying that it's going to get off the ground, is there hope for this second tier and for clubs like Sydney United and Sydney Olympic, Marconi, RPA is another one that's put their hand up. Wollongong Wolves, your old club. Is there hope for a second division in this country?
Look, it's a
tough one.
It's honestly a tough one, because I do think that this country needs promotion relegation now. To have a second league, which is all in all great, but to have no incentives to actually push people from the B League to aspire to the A League, and also push the people from the A League to not drop. You see some of the most emotional games overseas when it comes to relegation battle. And at the moment, what we've got is in the A League, if you're not doing well halfway through the year, okay, well, we're going to get ready for next year and there's nothing else to lose. Whereas we're not really pushing the boundaries to progress with our development in players, to also know what pressure is and to exceed to another country.
Yeah.
But I do hope, not for me, because my career now is a bit of on the decline at my age at 30.
Oh my gosh! Don't talk about ending your career at the age of 30.
Left.
Look at gosh.
Okay.
But also for the kids in our future, we want them to do well.
Yeah.
So we need to actually build that platform, so that they're able to do that.
Yeah,
what I'd give to be 30 and talking about the end of my career. My goodness me.
No, tell me about it. Jeez, we're only peaking at that point, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Patrick, you do mention the B League. I've spoken to a few players, and some of the players who played for a while for Sydney United alongside you, and just I suppose the travel component, etc. I mean, they would have to become professional, right? I mean, you'd have to do more training. I mean, for you, obviously you work hard during the week, then you front up for training, plus you play all these Australia Cup games, etc. It's a big toll on your whole body and things, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it is. I guess the biggest aspect for us senior players, even talking to boys from the RPS, as you said, some of the boys from Marconi, the problem that we all seem to have is if we give this up full time, as in we give up what we're doing full time, which is a lot of us have businesses and trades that we're working towards for a longer career, that we have to depend on. Whereas if the B League you do full time, by the time you probably stop playing in a couple of years, you have to fall back on what you probably had to put on pause. And you're in a position where you're thinking, is it worth to pause that to do the B League? Or do I have to think long term, because, we're getting married and all the other commitments that I'm sure you gentlemen had to think about at some point. So that's why for the younger boys, it's great. It's fantastic. For us older boys, unfortunately, it's a bit of a decision we have to look at and think whether it's worth it or not for us.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now, look, what I mean, you're obviously in that semi-professional environment, and once upon a time, it was a case of, a lot of blokes used to work in the trades and physical jobs, and I guess it still happens a lot. But the vast majority of your colleagues, players, and that, do they work hard physical jobs during the day and then still have to front up for training, or a lot of them now migrating to, I guess, what we call like white collar workers, in the office, and they're not doing as much physical. So when they do turn up to training of an evening, it's a good little bit of a break from being in the office, sitting behind the computer. They can actually do some exercise. Have things changed maybe in the last 5, 10, 15 years in your eyes?
Look, talking from my own personal experience with the squad, look, this year has changed completely because we've got a massive, massive turnover with young players. So a lot of them are still starting and having that aspirations to play football.
Mm-hmm.
So they're concentrating more on that. Whereas the senior boys, we do have, so myself, Bailey Rule, Carlos de Oliveira, Adrian Vestelitza, who are on the tools every day. We start pretty early and on the tools. And you got some of the other boys that aren't on the tools but doing, PT. Toma has his own physiotherapy practices.
Yep.
Taz has his own business. So all those things take a toll on you as well.
Yeah.
But I do think there's not as many tradies as there used to be in the NSL days. That's probably for sure. I'm not too sure about other squads in the league, but I don't. From what I saw as a kid to now, it's a lot more different. Yeah.
And we've got a couple of players, traveling from Central Coast and stuff to come to training, and that's a massive commitment as well.
Newcastle as well. Little Adam coming from Newcastle.
Unbelievable.
That's a good point, aren't it? Because I guess these days, you see it everywhere. Traffic congestion everywhere. Like, Sydney's no doubt like Melbourne, where I come from, Geelong, even Geelong's, a city of 200,000 is starting to having traffic snarls and what you're not. So you're spending a lot more time in the car. You're spending a lot more time sitting down, and it does have an effect on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I in the mornings I get up quite early and I leave the house at 5 a.m. and I'm at work in 45 minutes. In the afternoon, I finish at 3. I don't get home till 4:45.
Mm.
So the time pretty much doubles in the afternoon.
And then you got an Australia Cup game on a Tuesday night in Wollongong and things like that. So it's a massive. Right. Tell us, something's building this year. It's been absolutely phenomenal, particularly these past few weeks, Paddy. You mentioned some of the boys in the squad. Has it been that? What's so special? I mean, you guys just seem to be clicking at the moment, right?
Yeah, look, it's been fantastic. I think, to be honest, we've had what's been happening the last couple of weeks. So how we started was, I think we went into the preseason fantastic. The boys had a great attitude. They worked their so hard. Like, it was probably the hardest preseason I've had to do to date at the moment. And the boys showed a lot of character and got through it. What killed us, I think, is unfortunately I got sent off. Yeah.
So, 4 games, 4 matches.
4 games. And that caused a bit of a hiccup in our season. But since then, coming back, and we've been phenomenal. The young boys have really stepped up. They're starting to understand what it's like to play for Sydney United and what it means to play for the club. And Spider's put in, a lot of work to make us believe what we're doing is going to work. It's always hard when you've got a fresh new squad that haven't played much first 10 games to try and believe and keep working at it. And I have to give credit to all the boys, or especially the young boys as well, who've come in and just kept at it, kept working, and it's starting to really show as a squad. And I've got to give credit to the senior boys who push the young boys and keep them all humble and also together as a group.
Yeah, and it looks like you're getting sort of set up from the left, from the right, from the middle. You've got quite a few creative players around, and it's really entertaining to watch. That RPA game a few weeks ago where United won 5-1 was brilliant. The game where we were down 2-0 against Marconi in that second half comeback. I mean, there have been some really good games, and I think the crowds are coming back as a result as well, because you're not only playing exciting football, but you're actually combining it with a winning sort of team.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's good to see the fans to start coming back and, more and more at home games. But as I said, the boys are really picking up in all aspects, even, that win against Marconi, the way the boys fought until the last whistle, and it literally was till the last whistle. Carlos's great finish. It's just showing all the work that the boys have put in, starting to pay off.
And as we can see, there's footage there from this weekend's game. We took on the top team, Western Sydney Wanderers Academy side, and came away with a fantastic 3-2 win, 3-1 up at one stage, and then they pulled in a late consolation goal, I guess. But take us through the weekend's game. A phenomenal result, but more so was just the way you played and the way you attacked them. There we go, 2-0 lead within 30 odd minutes.
And both goals scored by Paddy. One a free kick. Do you do those free kicks or what? Do you practice those at training?
Mate, it's quite funny because for some odd reason, I don't really practice free kicks, but this week I was practicing all week after a session. And then on the weekend, as soon as we got the free kick there, Carlos came up to me and said, "Paddy, take it. You've been hitting them great all week." And then, I produced that, which is fantastic. I've had plenty of years of watching, Glenn Tricky Trefiro, do those free kicks for the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely. He was a master as well.
That's right. But no, look, to answer your question as well about the game was probably the best game we've been a part of this season in terms of how intense it was, the competitiveness from both teams. They're a young, mobile, hungry team who's obviously doing, as you can see, they're doing really well this year. But like Spider told us before the game, if we compete as much as they do, our quality will overshadow them, and it showed. First half were unbelievable, and of course they're fitter than us in terms of training every day, but we were able to do well and keep the result in 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't been going down to City United Sports Centre, make sure you do on a Sunday afternoon. There's no better place to be, particularly with this football that the team are playing. And this gentleman we're speaking to at the moment is sitting third in the all-time City United player list. Listen to these names. Luka Glavaš is leading it on 86 goals. Graham Arnold is second on 85 goals. And then we've got this gentleman, Mr. Chris Payne, who surely, probably by the end of this season, will beat both of those two. Hopefully, we'll see. And then we've got Chris Payne, of course, your partner in crime for the past couple of years on 65 goals, and Atia Borni on 60 goals. I mean, they are some legendary names there. I mean, it must be a big, accolade to you. You must be proud to be named amongst that list, Patrick.
No, of course, it's funny because when I was a kid, when I was at Blacktown City, I actually watched Luka Glavaš score those 4 goals against Blacktown City in the final. And
amazing, yes.
And
at Allegheny Stadium, yeah.
That's correct. And I was I was a youngster, and then now to be actually hanging around him and part of the club, it's quite phenomenal. And then, obviously the other week with that statistic that I had overcome, as you said, my partner in crime, Chris Payne. It's a real privilege to be part of those names at such a big club. It's not something that I'm not hungry. I love scoring goals, but to be there and be a part of this club in the history as it is, it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege.
And who are some of those great players? Who are the favorite? Is there any player that you've really been in sync with? At your time at the club, who you've really enjoyed playing alongside?
Yeah, I think one of the obvious ones in the last, since I've been here since 2018 is Tricky Trefiro. We have a special, connection in terms of understanding one another. The way we play football, it's quite similar. So we've always connected well and linked up well. Another one was, obviously Chris Payne, Matt Sim, Christian Gonzalez when he's out on the left, and he knows my runs and puts in balls early on the way I like it. There was a lot, yeah. There's obviously Panny Nikas was another one. There's plenty of players that I played with the last 7 seasons. Even, Skip knows how I like it when he gets the ball, and I also know when he wants to reverse it into me. So it's been fantastic.
The long balls, exactly. Yeah. And how big obviously we saw he got the red card yesterday, but how big an impact and a leader has Skip been at the club over the past couple of years?
No, Skip's fantastic. Besides being a good defender and a big leader in the park for us and saving us, immense amount of times on the pitch when we've needed it. He's also a good bloke off the pitch and make sure the change rooms together as a unit, but also making sure the young boys are doing their jobs, washing up, helping Ray, and all those kinds of things. So he's a big part of the squad.
And were you always a striker, Patrick, or did you move up the field?
Always a striker.
And who are some of your favorite strikers growing up, and who do you like watching at this particular point in time?
I've always watched Maradona, but I've always, looked at different things, different avenues, Brazilian Ronaldo, Batistuta, Francesco Totti, Francescoli from Uruguay. Mostly your old-fashioned number 9s, yeah.
And do you think this squad can go all the way?
I do. I believe in it. I reckon we've got the quality for it, the mobility, and the hunger for it. So I do believe that, yes.
Yeah, last couple of years we haven't got the cup and league run, but this year hopefully we can sync the two together. And as I said,
It'd be good.
Good luck with your personal also, goal scoring prowess. I mean, it's been absolutely brilliant to watch, and you've been an absolute joy to watch over the past few seasons at Sydney United. And the fans love you as you love the fans. So
and Patrick,
loved it.
And Patrick, at the age of 30, I think you've got quite a few more seasons left in you. And that goal record held by Luka Glavas, Graham Arnold in second spot, I think it is seriously under threat. And that starts the road to breaking that record starts this Friday night when you travel to Manly United. That game's at 7:30 p.m. But as a result of that win over the Western Sydney Wanderers, Sydney United are in fifth spot with 26 points, 4 points behind the leaders. So anything is possible, as Ante said. Good luck for the rest of the year, and we certainly look forward to a couple more of those braces and hat tricks from P and ANTELMI in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Good on you.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Patrick.
No, thank you. Pleasure.
Patrick ANTELMI from Sydney United. Ante, great interview, and what a gentleman and what a legend.
Yeah, obviously, great story. Great football story as well, and coming from his background and what he's done overseas and then coming back here, etc. Absolutely brilliant, and the story continues.
It does. And that brings us to the end of tonight's show, Ante. It was a huge show. What an interview that with Patrick ANTELMI. He had some very, very wise words to say, especially for the youngsters out there. Some good words of advice. What to follow in his footsteps, what not to follow in his footsteps. But a wonderful, wonderful guest to have on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, still doing the business. Scored a brace on the weekend. Scored a hat-trick the other week. So, those records are going to be tumbling, I think, this season at Sydney United. And they'll be favouring Patrick ANTELMI. And hopefully the guys can continue their good form. Just quickly, we haven't mentioned one of our guests from last year. Ante Juric actually took out the W League crown as well. So, well done to him. Unfortunately, at the expense of Danijela Galic and Dario Vidicic at Melbourne City. But 7 grand finals in a row, and Ante Juric has won 2 in a row. So phenomenal record in the W League for Ante Juric.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there. Folks, we're looking for our businesses to help out, or clubs as well. So you can email us at ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com or contact myself on 0402 012 716 and support the show that supports your community. We try and do it as hard as we can, as best as we can, and to let you in on a little secret. We actually had to record that interview with CARL MEDICA last night because of time difference. We did that at 10 o'clock at night, Ante, didn't we? And by the time the interview had finished and the preparation and everything, I think it was well and truly around about 11 o'clock. And I don't know about you, mate, but I had to be up at 5 o'clock this morning, so it was
only 8 p.m. WA time, so it was all right.
Yeah, that's true. On that note, thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show. We really, really appreciate all the guys in the and girls in the chat section as well. All the banter we have. It's great to hear it every week. Next week, we're going to have a massive, massive show. Again, there's been a few guests that we've been sort of putting on ice, and hopefully we'll get them on the show next week as well. But Ante, you'll be heading off on a bit of an overseas break next month, so we'll be missing you for a few weeks, but we'll be on the lookout for potential co-hosts. So if you're interested, you can always drop us a line as well. But mate, what's on the cards for this weekend for you?
This weekend, probably football. I mean, just like last Friday, I went to watch Herschel Zagreb play. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out as well as we hoped it would have. So we'll see. See United playing Friday night. So there's lots of football. It just continues, and of course, happy Mother's Day to all the mums who do all the hard work and all the stuff in the background to don't get the credit they deserve, more often than not, particularly in that players' football journey, right?
Absolutely. So to all the soccer mamas out there, thank you on behalf of all your sons, your husbands, your to team members and what you're not. They really do a fantastic job. And because us blokes can't do two things at once, that's where the ladies step in, and they are damn good at administration and getting everything on order on match days. That's for sure. On that note, thank you very much, folks, for being a part of tonight's show. We look forward to your company again next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And don't forget to tune into Dinamo TV this Thursday night on all of our social media platforms. There will be someone who will be speaking from the tournament organising committee, Chris Palavanis as well, the Football Victoria CEO. He'll be a special guest on this week's show, as will the newly appointed coach of St Albans Dinamo, Cameron Watson. So if you can't wait until Sunday or the weekend to get your football fix, jump in on Thursday night as well. Ante, good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks. All the best. Bye-bye.